Hey, it's Vin. How are y'all doing today? Today I want to talk to y'all about a psychological phenomenon known as false memory, or probably better known as the Mandela effect. It's called the Mandela effect because there's this collective consciousness of people who think that Nelson Mandela died in prison in the 80s when actually he um, served as president after or prime minister, whatever the guy of South Africa is called, in the 2000s. And I think that's really actually a bad example. I actually don't have any recollection of Mandela dying in prison, and I firmly remember him coming out and being the anti-apartheid leader of South Africa. But false memory is actually a really interesting phenomenon, and it can really be tested if you have. And I'll tell you how. I'll tell you how you can test this. If you have some friends that you've known for several years, particularly like if you've got some old high school friends or somebody that maybe you haven't seen in 20 years, and you start sharing memories, um, and how none of y'all will have the same memory. Now, it gets conspiratorial from the sense of why don't we all have the same memory? Um, why does one person remember something one way and the other person remember something another way? And I'm telling you, you can go and I've done this countless times. You can talk to people who you haven't seen for 20 years and tell stories when both of y'all were there, and the stories will be different. Now, does that mean that we're part of a computer program or a parallel reality, or is it just the way that the human mind works? Um, I mean, if we remember, I mean, again, kind of the premise of the Mandela effect is that we remember things differently, because actually we remember things the same, but when we recall them, they're different because like we live in a simulated reality, and when there are updates to the system, there's always going to be glitches, and not everything's going to come out 100% right because nothing's perfect. Excuse me. So yeah, just kind of conduct this experiment. Hit up an old friend that you've known for 20 years, and just start recalling some times that y'all were both together, and just have them tell the story, and just listen and see if it's the same thing, the same way that you remember it. And I'll be willing to bet a pretty penny that you're going to think, I don't remember it like that. Like, I remember it this way, or I remember it that way. It won't be a precise thing. Now, again, it could be in how the human mind processes um, events, and stores them, and then recollects them. I'm sorry. Or it could be, the conspiracy could be that we're computers, that we're simulations, and um, our mind is essentially a hard drive, and when the CPU, which is your consciousness, goes to access that hard drive, there's some glitches, some updates that perhaps weren't made. There's also the theory of like how we're computers and we need to be shut down, which would be sleep. We're sleeping for 8 hours at a time, just the same way a computer sleeps is shut down at night and updates. And a lot of times maybe people who don't get the proper nutrition, or who don't get the proper amount of sleep, or who's there's some glitches in their brain and in their processing system, and these people end up not recalling things the same way. I think if you get people who have really precise memories, like their memories are going to be better recollected. As a matter of fact, conduct that experiment on your friends. Contact some of your friends who you know who have really good memories, and contact some of your friends who weren't really known for their intellectual attributes, and look at how some of the memories that you have differ, because ultimately, you know, if memories aren't if your memory isn't a shared thing, like if it isn't something that's precise to all parties involved, then memories become a social construct. And I think that's what you get with the Mandela effect. You get a bunch of people who kind of, have this shared consciousness of a memory that's not actually the same thing. And so the question becomes, is reality flawed or is the memory flawed? And that really becomes the hypothesis. Is it reality or is it the human, the human memory system? Which one? And which one is flawed? Which one is not getting it right? Do we just not process what we see the right way, and then our computer doesn't, our hard drive doesn't download it properly to where when we recollect it with our consciousness, that we don't that the data that we access isn't stored properly, or is it reality's flawed and we're living in a parallel reality, and the simulators, if you will, or the computer generated reality that we're living in, does it just malfunction and glitch when it's um, updating and some of the information just isn't correct? So that's something that you guys might want to think about. Like I said, conduct that experiment. And just maybe you have three old friends and just think of it of times that I mean, you're not going to remember every day with these people after 10 years, 20 years, but you're going to have strong memories of those people that are going to pop into your mind. And just ask them, hey man, you remember, tell me a time about, you and I, give us a memory that y'all, or, maybe a time that y'all were together, at a party or a wedding or something, and just bring that up to them and just let them talk. Don't interrupt them. Let them talk, and just see if you recall the same thing. And so then again, it will be, is there a flaw in the human consciousness? Is your reality parallel to everybody else's reality? I mean, are you a computer generated simulation? I mean, if you look at a lot of the things that go on in the world and you see, or a lot of things that go on in your reality, you will start to see immense amount of inconsistencies. And it becomes like, are those inconsistencies um, a flaw of the observer, or are they a flaw of reality? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Is your mind flawed? Is your CPU flawed? Is your hard drive flawed? Is your consciousness flawed? Is your reality flawed? Or is it, is it the inverse? Is it the observer or is it the reality? So again, conduct those experiments. Hit me up in the comments section. Let me know how they went. 2, 3 people, and just you'll see that you will not get the same story. You'll be like, I don't remember it, anything like that. And there's going to be stories, especially if you start getting into 5 and 10, and they don't even really have to be that long. It can be 6 months ago, but particularly if they're longer stories, I'm telling you, they'll tell a story that you were there with, and you will not have it will not be the way that you remember it. So hit me up with those comments, share this video, kind of do a little experiment with your friend, and let's see if I'm right or wrong. Kind of put this hypothesis to the test, and let's get some experimentation going on. Let's let's figure this thing of human consciousness and simulation and Mandela effect out. Y'all take care. Bye.